Maya Thompson was having what she thought would be a routine day. At just 22 years old, she had recently completed an internship abroad and was now heading back home to her family. The flight ahead promised comfort and luxury. After all, it wasn't just any plane waiting for her at the small private airport. It was her family's private jet. Growing up as the daughter of Marcus Thompson, one of the wealthiest men in the world, Maya had always been surrounded by privilege. But, despite her affluent background, she never took anything for granted. Her father had raised her to value hard work and humility, lessons that stuck with her even as she navigated life among the elite. As Maya stepped onto the tarmac, her mind wandered to the experiences she'd had during her internship. She had worked tirelessly, proving herself not because of her last name but because of her skills and determination. For once, she felt like she was finally breaking free from the shadow of being Marcus Thompson's daughter. This trip home was supposed to mark the beginning of a new chapter, a chance to share her accomplishments with her family and plan her next steps toward building her own career. But things didn't go as planned. When Maya approached the sleek aircraft, she noticed a flurry of activity around it. Ground crew members were scurrying about, speaking urgently into their radios. Confused, she slowed her pace, wondering if there was some kind of technical issue or delay. Before she could ask anyone, a sharply dressed airline representative approached her with an apologetic smile. "Miss Thompson," he said, his tone polite yet firm, "I'm afraid we're going to need you to step aside. There's been a change in plans." "A change?" Maya repeated, frowning. "What do you mean?" The man hesitated for a moment, before explaining that another passenger, a high-profile client, had requested immediate use of the jet due to an urgent matter. According to company policy, priority bookings could override existing reservations under certain circumstances. Maya listened in disbelief as he continued, assuring her that alternative arrangements would be made for her travel. "But this is my family's jet," Maya protested, her voice rising slightly. "You can't just kick me off." "I understand your frustration, Miss Thompson," the representative replied, though his expression remained neutral. "However, these are exceptional circumstances. We apologize for any inconvenience caused." Before Maya could argue further, two security personnel appeared beside her, their presence making it clear that resistance wouldn't be tolerated. Feeling powerless, she gathered her carry-on bag and stepped away from the plane. As she watched, another passenger, a middle-aged man in an expensive suit, board the aircraft. She couldn't help but notice the smug look on his face. He glanced at her briefly before disappearing inside, leaving Maya standing alone on the tarmac. Humiliation washed over her as reality sank in. She had been forcibly removed from her own family's property, treated like an inconvenience rather than a valued customer, or worse, a human being deserving of respect. It wasn't just the act itself that stung, it was the indifference with which it was carried out. No one seemed to care who she was or how this might affect her. To them, she was simply someone who could be pushed aside without consequence. Stranded and unsure of what to do next, Maya called her best friend, Ava, hoping for some moral support. While waiting for Ava to arrive, she replayed the scene in her mind, trying to make sense of what had happened. Was it really just a matter of corporate policy overriding personal connections? Or was there something deeper at play here? Something rooted in bias or prejudice? As the minutes ticked by, Maya found herself reflecting on her upbringing. Growing up in a household where money was no object, she had often struggled with perceptions of entitlement. People either assumed she was handed everything on a silver platter or resented her for having opportunities they didn't. Either way, she constantly felt the need to prove herself, to show that she was more than just her family name. This incident only reinforced those feelings, reminding her how easily people dismissed her when they thought she lacked power or influence. By the time Ava arrived, Maya was simmering with anger and frustration. Sitting in her friend's car, she vented about the absurdity of the situation, questioning why no one had stood up for her or acknowledged her rights as a passenger. Ava listened patiently, offering words of encouragement while also pointing out the irony of the situation. If your dad finds out about this, heads are gonna roll, Ava joked half-heartedly, attempting to lighten the mood. Despite her attempts to laugh it off, Maya couldn't shake the feeling of injustice. What made matters worse was the realization that this wasn't just about her. It was about a system that allowed such treatment to happen in the first place. And though she tried to convince herself that it was a one-off mistake, deep down, she knew better. Something fundamental had gone wrong and she couldn't let it slide, not without seeking answers. Little did Maya know, the events of that day were far from over. Unbeknownst to her, news of the incident had already begun spreading online, thanks to a fellow passenger who witnessed the exchange and posted about it on social media. By morning, hashtags like Justice for Maya were trending worldwide, drawing attention not only to her plight but also to broader issues within the aviation industry. Meanwhile, across town, her father, Marcus Thompson, was preparing to take action in ways that would leave everyone involved shaken and forever changed. This unexpected turn of events set the stage for a confrontation that would redefine Maya's relationship with her father, challenge the status quo of an entire industry, and ultimately empower her to stand up for herself in ways she never imagined possible. After being forced off the private jet, Maya felt a whirlwind of emotions: anger, embarrassment, and disbelief. She sat silently in Ava's car as her best friend drove her away from the airport. The weight of what had just happened hung heavily over her. It wasn't just about being removed from the plane. It was the way she'd been treated, as if she were invisible, insignificant, and unworthy of respect. For someone like Maya, who prided herself on earning her place through hard work rather than relying solely on her family name, this incident cut deep. Ava glanced at Maya occasionally, sensing the storm brewing inside her friend. "I still can't believe they did that to you," Ava said finally, breaking the silence. "It's ridiculous. That jet belongs to your family. They had no right to kick you off." Maya sighed, gripping the strap of her carry-on bag tightly. "That's the thing, Ava. To them, I'm just me. Not Marcus Thompson's daughter. Just some girl who happened to show up at the wrong time. And honestly, I don't even know why I'm so upset. Maybe I should have expected it." "Expected what?" Ava asked sharply, glancing at Maya before turning her attention back to the Twitter. "For people to treat you like garbage? You shouldn't have to expect that, Maya. Nobody should." Maya didn't respond immediately. Instead, she stared out the window, watching the city lights blur past as they drove. She knew Ava meant well, but her words only stirred up more conflicting thoughts. On one hand, Ava was right. No one deserved to be treated the way she had been. But on the other hand, Maya couldn't ignore the reality of her situation. People often judged her based on her last name, assuming she lived a charmed life where everything came easily. Some envied her, while others dismissed her entirely, believing she hadn't earned her accomplishments. Both reactions made it difficult for Maya to feel truly seen or understood. As they pulled into the driveway of Maya's apartment building, Ava turned off the engine and looked at her friend. "You okay?" "I'll be fine," Maya replied softly, forcing a small smile. "Thanks for picking me up. I don't know what I would have done without you." "No problem," Ava said, giving her a quick hug. "Call me later if you need anything, all right? Don't let jerks like that guy ruin your night." Maya nodded and stepped out of the car, dragging her bag behind her. As she entered her quiet apartment, she felt a strange mix of exhaustion and restlessness. She dropped her bag by the door and slumped onto the couch, staring blankly at the wall. Her mind kept replaying the scene at the airport, the indifferent expressions of the airline staff, the smug smirk of the man who took her seat, and the humiliating moment when security escorted her away. Each memory stung a little more than the last. To distract herself, Maya decided to scroll through her phone. At first, she thought nothing of it when notifications began popping up. Messages from friends checking in, comments on her social media, posts, and even a few missed calls from unknown numbers. But as she opened her messages, she realized something unusual was happening. One of her friends sent her a link to a viral post on Twitter. Curious, Maya clicked on it. Her heart sank as she read the thread. Someone who had witnessed the entire Incident at the airport had shared their account online, complete with photos of Maya standing helplessly on the tarmac. The post quickly gained traction, sparking outrage among thousands of users. Comments poured in, condemning the airline's actions and expressing support for Maya. Hashtags like Buying Justice for Maya and Buying Respect for All started trending, turning what had been a personal humiliation into a public spectacle. Maya scrolled through the comments, feeling a mix of gratitude and unease. While many people stood up for her, others speculated wildly about her background, questioning whether she really needed the jet or if she was exaggerating the situation. Some accused her of playing the victim card, while others defended her fiercely, pointing out the blatant disrespect shown to her regardless of her privilege. Reading these polarized reactions left Maya feeling exposed and vulnerable, as though her private struggle had become everyone's business. She put down her phone and leaned back against the couch, closing her eyes. This was too much to process, all at once. All she wanted was to get home safely after months of hard work abroad. Instead, she found herself at the center of a controversy she hadn't asked for. Despite her frustration, a small part of her appreciated the solidarity she saw online. It reminded her that she wasn't alone, that there were people out there who believed in fairness and equality, even in situations involving someone like her. Unable to sleep, Maya spent the rest of the night reflecting on her life and the challenges she'd faced growing up as the daughter of a billionaire. Her father, Marcus Thompson, had always emphasized the importance of humility and self-reliance. He encouraged her to pursue her passions and build her own identity, separate from his success. Maya took those lessons to heart, working tirelessly to prove herself in every endeavor. Yet moments like this made her question whether it was worth it. No matter how hard she tried, there would always be people who judged her solely based on her family name, or worse, assumed she didn't deserve respect because of it. By morning, Maya felt emotionally drained, but determined to move forward. She brewed herself a cup of coffee and sat by the window, watching the sunrise paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. As she sipped her drink, she thought about how she could respond to the situation. Should she issue a statement addressing the incident, ignore the backlash and focus on her own goals, or use this opportunity to advocate for change? Before she could settle on a plan, her phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from her father. "Can we talk?" Something important came up. Maya frowned, wondering what he meant. Knowing her dad, he probably already knew about the incident. After all, news traveled fast in their world. Still, she couldn't help but feel a pang of apprehension. How would he react? Would he see this as another example of her needing his protection? Or would he understand that she wanted to handle things on her own? With a deep breath, Maya replied, "Sure, let's talk." Little did she know, her father was already en route to her apartment. By the time she finished her coffee and tidied up a bit, a sleek black Rolls-Royce pulled up outside her building. Through the window, Maya spotted her father stepping out of the car, looking every bit the powerful businessman he was known to be. His presence commanded attention, yet there was a warmth in his eyes that softened his imposing demeanor. When Marcus Thompson walked into her apartment a few minutes later, Maya felt a wave of conflicting emotions: relief, pride, and a hint of irritation. Relief because her father was here, ready to support her. Pride because she admired him deeply, not just for his wealth, but for his integrity and leadership. And irritation because, despite her efforts to prove herself, she sometimes wondered if people, including her dad, would ever see her as more than just his daughter. Marcus hugged her tightly before pulling back to look at her. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice filled with concern. Maya nodded, though her expression betrayed the turmoil she was feeling. "I'm fine, Dad. Just frustrated." Marcus studied her for a moment before sitting down across from her. "I heard about what happened," he said gently, "and I want you to know that I'm sorry you had to go through that. It shouldn't have happened, not to anyone, especially not to you." Maya hesitated, unsure of how to respond. Part of her wanted to lash out, to demand answers and accountability. But another part of her recognized the sincerity in her father's words. He wasn't just apologizing as the owner of the aviation company, he was apologizing as her dad, someone who genuinely cared about her well-being. "I don't want you to think I called you here because I need saving," Maya said finally, meeting his gaze. "I can handle this myself, but I won't lie. It hurts. And it makes me wonder if people will ever see me for who I am instead of whose daughter I am." Marcus nodded slowly, his expression thoughtful. "That's a valid concern, Maya. And I wish I could tell you that it gets easier. But the truth is, people will always have opinions about you, about me, about our family. What matters is how you choose to respond. You've always been strong, smart, and resilient. Don't let anyone take that away from you." His words resonated with Maya, reminding her of the values he had instilled in her since childhood. Strength, resilience, and grace under pressure. These were qualities she had cultivated over the years, and now was the time to put them into practice. As they talked further, Maya began to feel a renewed sense of purpose. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she knew she wouldn't face them alone. With her father by her side and perhaps the support of countless strangers rooting for her online, she was ready to turn this unfortunate incident into an opportunity for growth and change. But Maya also realized that this was just the beginning. The road ahead would require courage, determination, and a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths, not just about the aviation industry, but about herself and her place in the world. The next morning, as the sun rose over the city skyline, Maya found herself sitting across from her father in her modest apartment. Marcus Thompson, dressed impeccably in a tailored navy suit, exuded an aura of calm authority that seemed to fill the room. Despite his commanding presence, there was something reassuring about the way he leaned forward, his hands clasped together, listening intently to every word Maya said. For the first time since the incident at the airport, she felt like someone truly understood what she had gone through. Marcus began by explaining how he had learned about the situation late last night. His network of contacts, executives, employees, and even friends within the aviation industry had quickly brought the details of the incident to his attention. At first, he chose not to intervene immediately, wanting to give Maya space to navigate the situation on her own. He believed in her ability to handle adversity, knowing full well that she had faced challenges before without relying on his influence. But when reports of the viral backlash reached him, along with the knowledge of how deeply hurt his daughter was, Marcus decided it was time to step in. "I wanted you to have the chance to deal with this yourself," Marcus said, his voice steady, but tinged with regret. "But seeing how this has affected you, and knowing that my company played a role in it, I can't sit back anymore. It's my responsibility to fix this." Maya nodded slowly, appreciating her father's reasoning. She knew he valued independence and resilience, qualities he had always encouraged in her. Still, hearing him acknowledge the pain she felt meant more than she could put into words. For all her efforts to prove herself outside of his shadow, Maya couldn't deny the comfort she drew from having him by her side now. With a determined look in his eyes, Marcus stood up and extended his hand toward Maya. "Come with me," he said simply. "We're going to set things right." Curious but trusting, Maya grabbed her bag and followed him out of the apartment. Waiting downstairs was a sleek black Rolls-Royce, its polished surface gleaming under the morning light. A chauffeur held the door open for them, and as they climbed inside, Maya couldn't help but feel a mix of awe and apprehension. This wasn't just any car ride. It was a journey toward confronting the very people who had wronged her. As the I-Dice Rolls-Royce glided smoothly through the streets, Marcus explained his plan. They were headed to the headquarters of Thompson Aviation Group, the multi-billion-dollar company he founded decades ago. There, he intended to hold a meeting with senior executives and address the systemic issues that allowed such an incident to occur. More importantly, he planned to ensure accountability, not only for those directly involved, but also for anyone complicit in perpetuating discriminatory practices. "People need to understand that respect isn't optional," Marcus said firmly. "It's non-negotiable, and if my own company fails to uphold that standard, then I've failed as a leader." Maya listened quietly, absorbing her father's words. She had always admired his commitment to fairness and integrity, traits that had earned him respect far beyond his wealth. Yet watching him prepare to take action now gave her a newfound appreciation for the weight of his responsibilities and the power he wielded. While she had spent years trying to carve out her own identity apart from him, she realized in that moment that she shared many of his values. The desire to stand up for what was right, to fight against injustice, and to lead by example, it was all part of who they both were. When they arrived at the towering glass building that housed Thompson Aviation Group's headquarters, Maya felt a surge of nerves. Dozens of employees bustled around the lobby, some stopping to stare as they recognized Marcus walking through the doors. Whispers rippled through the crowd, and Maya couldn't help but notice the mixture of admiration and fear in their expressions. Her father's reputation preceded him, and while most respected him deeply, no one dared to cross him. They made their way to the executive boardroom on the top floor, where Marcus wasted no time asserting his dominance. As the heavy wooden doors swung open, the room fell silent. Senior executives sat around the large oval table, their faces pale with unease. Clearly, news of Marcus's impending arrival had reached them, and none of them looked prepared to face him. Marcus strode to the head of the table and took his seat, motioning for Maya to sit beside him. His gaze swept across the room, locking onto each person individually before he spoke. "I'm sure you're all aware of why we're here today," he began, his tone calm yet unyielding. "An unacceptable situation occurred yesterday involving my daughter, Maya Thompson. Not only was she removed from a private jet owned by this company, a jet reserved for her use, but she was treated with blatant disrespect and disregard. That is completely unacceptable." The executives exchanged nervous glances, clearly unsure of how to respond. One of them, a middle-aged man with thinning hair, cleared his throat and attempted to explain. "Mr. Thompson, please allow us to apologize. We were following protocol regarding priority bookings and—" "Protocol?" Marcus interrupted, his voice sharp enough to silence the room. "Let me make something clear. There is no protocol that excuses treating anyone, especially a member of my family, with such callousness. If your so-called policies led to this outcome, then those policies are flawed. And if your leadership allowed this to happen, then your leadership is failing." The room grew eerily quiet as Marcus continued, dissecting the chain of events that led to Maya's removal. He demanded answers, pressing each executive to justify their decisions. It became painfully obvious that the issue wasn't just about one isolated incident. It was symptomatic of deeper problems within the company's culture. Bias, complacency, and a lack of accountability had created an environment where discrimination could thrive unchecked. Determined to get to the root of the matter, Marcus turned his attention to the businessman responsible for commandeering the jet. With a few clicks on his laptop, he initiated a video call, bringing the man's face onto the large screen mounted on the wall. The man, seated in a luxurious office somewhere across the globe, appeared startled but quickly masked his surprise with a forced smile. "Good morning, Mr. Thompson," he said nervously. "I assume this is about the jet reservation?" "You assume correctly," Marcus replied, his tone icy. "Care to explain why you felt entitled to override my daughter's booking?" The man stammered, clearly unprepared for the confrontation. "Well, I assumed it was available since I received confirmation from your team. I didn't realize that it belonged to my family." Marcus cut him off again, his patience wearing thin. "Your assumption cost my daughter her dignity. Effective immediately, your frequent flyer privileges are revoked, and your company's contract with us is terminated. Consider this a lesson in humility." The man's face turned ashen as the reality of Marcus's words sank in. Before he could protest, Marcus ended the call and turned back to the executives. "Now," he said, addressing the room once more, "we need to talk about how we prevent this from happening again." Over the next hour, Marcus outlined a series of sweeping reforms aimed at addressing the underlying issues within the company. These included mandatory anti-bias training for all employees, transparent booking policies to eliminate ambiguity, and the establishment of a diversity task force to oversee implementation. Additionally, He announced a $10 million initiative to promote inclusivity and equality across the aviation industry, pledging to work with advocacy groups and community leaders to drive meaningful change. Throughout the meeting, Maya watched her father with a mixture. Undoubtedly, expand the outline of Part 3 without heading. The tension in the boardroom was palpable as Marcus Thompson continued to address the group of senior executives. His words were sharp, direct, and unyielding, leaving no room for excuses or deflection. Each executive squirmed under his gaze, their discomfort growing with every passing moment. Maya sat beside him, her presence a silent reminder of the human cost of their failures. Though she had initially felt hesitant about being part of this confrontation, watching her father dismantle the excuses and hold people accountable filled her with a quiet sense of pride. Marcus turned his attention to the CEO of Thompson Aviation Group, a man named Richard Langston who had been with the company for over 2 decades. Langston was known for his ability to navigate corporate politics and maintain profitability, but today he looked like a deer caught in headlights. Marcus leaned forward slightly, his piercing eyes locking onto Langston's. "Richard," he began, his tone deceptively calm, "you've been with this company longer than anyone else in this room. You know how I operate. So tell me, how did we get here?" Langston cleared his throat, visibly struggling to find the right words. "Mr. Thompson, I assure you, this is not reflective of our values as a company. It was an isolated incident, caused by miscommunication and poor judgment at the operational level." "Isolated," Marcus repeated, raising an eyebrow. "Do you really believe that? Or are you just hoping I'll accept that explanation so you can sweep this under the rug? Because if that's your plan, let me stop you right now. This isn't just about my daughter. This is about a culture that allows discrimination and disrespect to go unchecked. And if it happened to Maya, it's happening to others too." The room fell silent, the weight of Marcus's words hanging heavily in the air. No one dared to argue with him, knowing full well that he wasn't someone who tolerated half-truths or empty promises. He stood up from his chair and walked to the front of the room, addressing everyone directly. "I built this company from the ground up," Marcus said, his voice firm but tinged with emotion. Check. The days following the explosive boardroom meeting were a whirlwind of activity for Maya and her father. Marcus Thompson wasted no time in putting his plans into action, determined to ensure that the incident involving Maya would serve as a catalyst for meaningful change, not just within Thompson Aviation Group but across the entire aviation industry. For Maya, this period was both overwhelming and transformative, as she found herself thrust into the spotlight in ways she had never anticipated. A few days after the confrontation at headquarters, Marcus announced a high-profile press conference to address the public outcry surrounding the incident. The event was held in a grand ballroom at one of the city's most prestigious hotels, with rows of chairs filled with reporters, camera crews, and industry representatives. As Maya stood backstage with her father, she could feel her heart racing. Though she had always admired Marcus's ability to command a room, stepping onto such a large stage alongside him felt daunting. "You don't have to say much," Marcus reassured her, sensing her nerves. "Just speak from the heart. People will respect that." Maya nodded, taking a deep breath to steady herself. When they finally walked out onto the podium, the room erupted into applause. Marcus raised a hand to quiet the crowd before addressing them. His opening remarks were brief but powerful, acknowledging the systemic issues exposed by the incident and pledging to lead by example in creating a more inclusive and respectful environment. "I want to start by apologizing to my daughter, Maya," Marcus said, turning to look at her with genuine warmth. "What happened to her should never have occurred, not because she's my child, but because she's a human being who deserved better. And if it can happen to someone like her, it can happen to anyone. That's why we're taking immediate steps to fix what's broken." He then outlined the reforms he had already set in motion: mandatory anti-bias training for all employees, transparent booking policies to prevent similar incidents, and the establishment of a $10 million diversity initiative aimed at fostering inclusivity. The audience listened intently, many nodding in approval as Marcus spoke. When he finished, He stepped aside and gestured for Maya to take the microphone. For a moment, Maya hesitated, feeling the weight of hundreds of eyes on her. But as she looked out at the crowd, she remembered the countless messages of support she had received online, the people who had rallied behind her and turned her personal struggle into a broader conversation about fairness and equality. Drawing strength from their solidarity, she began to speak. "I never imagined I'd be standing here today talking about something so personal," Maya admitted, her voice steady despite her nerves. Being removed from that plane wasn't just embarrassing, it was dehumanizing. It made me question whether people see me for who I am or if they only see my last name. But what happened to me isn't unique. Every day people face discrimination and disrespect in spaces where they should feel safe and valued. Her words resonated deeply with the audience, many of whom nodded in agreement. Maya went on to express gratitude for the outpouring of support she had received and urged others to use their voices to stand up against injustice. "Change doesn't happen overnight," she concluded, "but it starts when we refuse to stay silent. I'm proud to be part of an effort to make our industry and our world a little bit better." When the press conference ended, the response was overwhelmingly positive. News outlets praised Marcus for using his influence responsibly, while Maya became a symbol of resilience and grace under pressure. Social media lit up once again, this time with hashtags like #Thank you Maya and "Leading by Example" trending globally. Celebrities, activists, and everyday people lauded the Thompsons for turning a painful experience into an opportunity for progress. In the weeks that followed, Maya threw herself into overseeing the implementation of the reforms her father had announced. She worked closely with the newly formed Diversity Task Force, collaborating with experts in equity and inclusion to develop comprehensive training programs for employees at every level of the company grounded. Months had passed since the incident at the airport, and Maya Thompson found herself standing on the same tarmac where everything had gone wrong. This time, however, the atmosphere was electric with excitement rather than tension. Surrounding her were friends, family members, colleagues, and reporters, all gathered to witness the unveiling of a new fleet of eco-friendly jets designed under her supervision. The sleek aircraft gleamed in the sunlight, their modern design symbolizing not just innovation, but also a commitment to sustainability and inclusivity. As Maya looked around, she couldn't help but reflect on how far she'd come since that fateful day. What had started as a humiliating experience had transformed into an opportunity for growth, not just for her personally, but for the entire aviation industry. Her father's swift intervention and the sweeping reforms he implemented had set a new standard for accountability and respect within Thompson Aviation Group. Meanwhile, Maya's leadership in overseeing these changes had earned her recognition as a force to be reckoned with in her own right. The event began with a short speech from Marcus Thompson, who took the stage to thank everyone involved in making the project possible. He spoke passionately about the importance of blending technological advancement with ethical responsibility, emphasizing that success meant nothing if it came at the expense of humanity or the environment. Today marks more than just the launch of a new fleet, Marcus said, his voice filled with pride. It marks a step forward in proving that business can and should be a force for good. When it was Maya's turn to speak, she stepped up to the podium, feeling a mix of nerves and excitement. Over the past few months, she had grown accustomed to public speaking, but this moment felt different. It wasn't just another milestone, it was a celebration of resilience, determination, and the power of turning adversity into action. "I never thought I'd stand here today talking about something so meaningful," Maya began, her voice steady and confident. "A few months ago, I was stranded on this very runway, feeling powerless and invisible. But instead of letting that experience define me, I chose to learn from it. I realized that real change doesn't happen when things are easy. It happens when we face challenges head-on and refuse to give up." She went on to explain how the new fleet represented more than just cutting-edge technology. Each jet was equipped with features designed to enhance accessibility and comfort for passengers of all backgrounds, ensuring that no one would ever feel excluded again. Additionally, the planes were powered by sustainable energy sources, reducing their carbon footprint and setting a benchmark for environmentally conscious travel. "This isn't just about flying smarter," Maya said. "It's about flying better, for our planet, for our communities, and for each other." Her words drew thunderous applause, and as she stepped down from the podium, she felt a profound sense of accomplishment. For years, Maya had struggled with the weight of her family name, constantly questioning whether people saw her for her abilities or simply as Marcus Thompson's daughter. But now, standing amidst the fruits of her hard work, she knew she had earned her place not because of her last name, but because of her vision, dedication, and courage. After the speeches, guests were invited to tour one of the new jets. As Maya walked through the aircraft alongside her father, she marveled at the attention to detail that had gone into its design. From spacious seating arrangements to advanced climate control systems, every aspect reflected her commitment to creating a more inclusive and sustainable future. Reporters snapped photos while industry experts praised the innovations, cementing the fleet's status as a game-changer in the world of aviation. Later that evening, after the crowd had dispersed and the festivities wound down, Maya found herself sitting with her father in a quiet corner of the hangar. They sipped coffee together, enjoying a rare moment of calm after the whirlwind of the day. "You've done incredible work, Maya," Marcus said, breaking the comfortable silence. "I'm proud of you, not just for what you've achieved, but for how you've handled everything. You've shown strength and grace that inspire even me." Maya smiled, touched by his words. "Thank you, Dad. I couldn't have done it without your support. And honestly, I think we make a pretty good team." Marcus chuckled softly, nodding in agreement. "We do. But remember, this is just the beginning. There's still so much work to be done, not just in aviation, but in the world. Keep pushing boundaries, keep challenging the status quo. That's how you'll continue to make a difference." Maya knew he was right. While the launch of the new fleet was a significant achievement, it was only one piece of a much larger puzzle. She understood that true change required ongoing effort, collaboration, and perseverance. Still, she felt ready to take on whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing she had both the skills and the support system to succeed. In the weeks that followed, Maya continued to play an active role in shaping the future of Thompson Aviation Group. She spearheaded initiatives aimed at expanding diversity within the company's workforce, partnering with organizations dedicated to providing opportunities for underrepresented groups. At the same time, she worked tirelessly to promote sustainability, advocating for policies that prioritized environmental responsibility across the industry. Through it all, her relationship with her father grew stronger. Their shared experiences during the past few months had deepened their bond, allowing them to understand each other in ways they hadn't before. Marcus admired his daughter's tenacity and creativity, while Maya appreciated her father's wisdom and unwavering belief in her potential. Together, they proved that leadership wasn't just about authority. It was about partnership, trust, and a shared vision for a better world. As Maya boarded one of the new jets for its maiden voyage, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. This trip wasn't just another flight. It was a reminder of how far she'd come and a promise of what she could achieve moving forward. With the wind beneath her wings and the lessons of the past guiding her path, Maya was ready to soar to new heights, new horizons, and a future defined not by limitations but by possibilities.